Water parks are supposed to be places of joy, laughter, and summer fun, but beneath the surface of all those twisting slides and lazy rivers lies a darker truth. From gruesome mechanical malfunctions to tragic human error and shocking oversights in safety, these incidents reveal just how quickly things can go wrong. In this video, we're diving into the 5 most disturbing deaths at water parks. Stories that will make you think twice before your next splash.
A horrific accident on a world-famous amusement park ride turned a fun family outing into a day of tragedy. Years later, the community hopes to finally have some closure.
It was March 27, 2021. 13-year-old Leonardo Luna Guerrero and his family had just recovered from the ravages of COVID-19. They traveled to Playa del Carmen, Mexico. They chose Zenses, a popular water park run by the well-known Grupo Guerrero, as the place to celebrate Holy Week. But within hours, everything changed. Leonardo was eager to enjoy the day. Alongside his parents and 3 siblings, he entered one of the park's most seemingly harmless attractions, the lazy river. Parents floated hand in hand with their kids, and the atmosphere was calm. But beneath the surface, something was terribly wrong. As Leonardo drifted along the stream, he was suddenly pulled underwater. It happened in an instant. His leg had become trapped, violently and invisibly, in an uncovered filtration duct beneath the water, a hazard that should never have been exposed. At first, his family thought it might be a prank. Maybe Leonardo was playing a trick. But when he didn't resurface, fear turned to terror. His father, Miguel Angel Luna Calvo, a cardiologist by profession, leapt into action. What he saw was every parent's nightmare. His son was stuck beneath the water, unmoving. Miguel fought desperately to free him. Other park visitors joined in the frantic effort, and after an agonizing struggle, Leonardo was pulled from the duct. But it was too late. He was unconscious, lifeless in his father's arms. On instinct and training, Miguel began CPR. The park staff rushed in, but Miguel quickly realized they were unprepared. He begged for a respirator. There was none. He asked for proper medical tools. There were none. Each passing second was precious. Minutes slipped by like water through fingers. Eventually, an ambulance arrived and rushed Leonardo to the nearby Amerimed Hospital. But on March 28th, hope shattered. Leonardo died from a pulmonary hemorrhage. The cause? Drowning. The kind of death no child should ever experience, and no parent should ever witness. The grief was unbearable, but the horror didn't end there. Miguel accused the park of negligence. He said the staff weren't just unprepared, they were evasive. They pressured him to sign a release form before returning his son's body, a move that felt more like a cover-up than compassion. Grupo Guerrero admitted that there had been human error. The filtration system had been undergoing maintenance and should have been sealed. But that explanation wasn't enough. Miguel's fury grew when he found out that the hospital refused to let him pay the bill. At first, it seemed like an act of grace, but then he realized it was something darker. By waiving the bill, he believed they were trying to silence him, to make the tragedy disappear quietly, to sweep Leonardo's death under the rug. In the years that followed, Miguel refused to stay silent. He spoke out, telling Leonardo's story over and over again, determined that no other family should suffer the way his had. He fought back against the narrative the park tried to spin. He accused both the park and the hospital of failing his son in every way, not just with faulty equipment, but with inaction, mismanagement, and an apparent attempt to shift blame. He tried to transfer Leonardo to a better-equipped hospital, but was allegedly blocked by hospital staff who seemed more concerned with bureaucracy than saving a child's life. By 2023, the legal battle was still ongoing, but for Miguel, this was never about money. It was about justice. It was about exposing a system that failed a boy who had already survived so much.
But before its big debut, major questions about the ride's safety. Early tests showing sandbag dummies going airborne.
On August 7, 2016, at Schlitterbahn Waterpark in Kansas City, the Schwab family arrived with excitement. It was Elected Officials Day, a special occasion offering free admission to public officials and their families. Among the crowd was Kansas State Representative Scott Schwab, his wife Michelle, and their 4 sons, including 10-year-old Caleb. Caleb was all energy. He couldn't wait to conquer the park's most infamous attraction, Verrückt, the world's tallest water slide, standing 168 feet high. It was taller than Niagara Falls, steeper than it looked, but behind the screams of joy and marketing hype hid a secret no one dared to question, until it was too late. There were no age restrictions, no professional oversight, just a towering monster of a ride built not by engineers, but by daredevils who played with physics like it was a game. Caleb, weighing just 73 pounds, lined up with his older brother Nathan to take the plunge. Nathan went first. Caleb followed, joining 2 adult women on a 3-person raft, seated right in the front. He was beaming. He never came out alive. As the raft hurtled down the slide, it hit the first slope with terrifying speed, but the second hill, designed like a roller coaster loop, proved fatal. The raft went airborne. In an instant, Caleb was thrown from his seat and slammed into a metal pole supporting the overhead netting. Below, families screamed. Park goers turned away. Nathan, just 12, stood at the bottom waiting. He saw the raft come down. He saw the body. He knew. His scream tore through the air. Michelle, frantic, tried to run to her son, but bystanders held her back. They were trying to protect her. But from what? A sight no mother should ever have to witness, the unthinkable truth. Scott, in shock, kept repeating the same desperate question. Is he really gone? Yes, he was. The days that followed unraveled like a slow-motion nightmare. The investigation into Caleb's death revealed a horrifying truth. This wasn't an unpredictable freak accident. Verrückt had a dark history, one that had been ignored. The ride had been tested using sandbags, and even in those early trials, the rafts had flown off the track. Videos existed showing the danger. The warnings were there, but they were buried, overlooked, dismissed. There were no certified engineers involved in designing the slide. Other guests came forward with horror stories, and yet it remained open. In the months that followed, the Schwab family filed suit. In 2017, they reached a $20 million settlement with Schlitterbahn and the ride's designers, but no dollar amount could undo what was done. Caleb's death sparked criminal charges. Jeff Henry, the park's co-owner and the man who envisioned Verrückt, was charged with second-degree murder. Prosecutors argued it was more than negligence. It was recklessness, but even those charges were dropped. Questions about the evidence allowed the accused to walk free. No one was held accountable. The slide was torn down. The park was shut for good in 2018, but the damage was eternal.
As Davey was on the way to the toilet, he passed the entrance of the volcano slide. Although the area was partially closed off, Davey got through at the entrance, which was only covered by a piece of tape.
It was supposed to be just another warm Sunday filled with laughter, splashes, and sun. On February 13th, 2022, 8-year-old Davey Lucas de Miranda was exactly where he loved to be most, at Droma Aqua Park in Caxias do Sul, Brazil. For Davey, the park was magical. He had visited many times before, always begging to return, his eyes lighting up at the sight of his favorite attraction, the towering volcano water slide. But this time would be different. This time, joy would turn to horror. That afternoon, Davey's father, Luano, had taken him and his younger brother out for a quick trip, just a few hours to burn off some energy. It was supposed to be simple. It was supposed to be safe. But inside the park, something had changed. The volcano slide, once a symbol of fun, had been partially dismantled. 3 of the 4 slides emerging from the volcano's peak had gaping holes where the plastic tubing had been removed for maintenance. The attraction should have been completely off limits, and at first, it was. Tall fencing had been put up to prevent access, but that protection didn't last. Somewhere along the line, someone made a decision. The manager, Cristiano Villarreis, reportedly ordered the fencing removed. In its place, a thin strip of caution tape and a vague sense of "do not enter." From a distance, the volcano still looked open. It still looked fun. Especially to a child who had climbed those steps before. Especially to a little boy who didn't know he was walking straight into a death trap. Davey had wandered off after going to the restroom, just a moment out of sight. That's all it took. No alarms, no lifeguard to stop him, no signs shouting "danger." Just a familiar staircase and a trusted playground. He began to climb. From the top, everything looked normal. The tube stretched ahead, curving downward into darkness. It was the same slide he remembered, or so he thought. Davey sat down, pushed forward, and let gravity take him. But the slide was broken. Not ahead of him, not behind, underneath. Halfway down, the sealed safety of the tube simply vanished. A gaping hole waited where part of the slide had been removed. There was no warning, no net, no guardrail, and Davey fell. He dropped nearly 50 feet, slamming into the hard metal and wooden scaffolding that supported the ride's skeleton. His body ricocheted and tumbled, landing in a shallow pool, just 28 inches deep. Rescue workers reached him quickly. For a fleeting moment, there was hope, but hope wasn't enough. Davey succumbed to his injuries at the hospital. And just like that, the vibrant boy with the curious eyes and endless questions was gone. His mother, Jacqueline Rosa, shattered by grief, spoke through tears. He was a marvelous child, so full of plans, so full of life. He just wanted to play, and that's what cuts deepest. Davey didn't die because of recklessness on his part. He didn't die taking some dare or leaping a fence. He died because people failed to do their jobs, because shortcuts were taken, because someone decided it was okay to remove a barrier meant to keep children out of danger. The investigation laid the facts bare. The original fencing could have saved his life. It was strong, effective, and visible. But once removed, only tape remained, insufficient and utterly useless. The ride was left exposed. The hazard wasn't hidden, it was wide open. The park operated as if nothing was wrong, as if a missing chunk of water slide wouldn't matter, as if a child's life could be trusted to warning tape. The civil engineer tasked with overseeing the maintenance, Flavio Tomás de Aquino Mus, failed to ensure the site was properly secured during park hours, and in the end, it cost a family their child. Davey's death wasn't a tragic accident. It was preventable. It was the result of apathy disguised as protocol. It was a moment of innocence swallowed by the consequences of carelessness. And now, every parent who watches their child climb the steps of a water slide, every family who places trust in amusement parks to keep them safe, must ask, is it really safe? Because no family should have to go through what Davey's did, and no child should ever have to die just because they thought the slide was still open.
Twisted and broke apart about 10 feet from the top. 33 students couldn't hang on.
On June 2nd, 1997, Quimby Gillotti, just 18 years old, was days away from her high school graduation. Quimby had spent years preparing for her future. That morning began with excitement and hope. Quimby and her classmates from Napa High School boarded buses with the kind of joy only seniors on the verge of graduation know. The destination, Waterworld, USA, a thrilling water park in Concord, California, known for its steep slides and pulse-pounding rides. For the class of '97, it was their last big celebration before stepping into adulthood. No more homework, no more hall passes, just one perfect day to remember forever. Waterworld had become a tradition for Napa seniors. Every year, students packed into the rides. It was dangerous. They knew that. But it was also tradition. And this year, the plan was even bolder than usual. Rumors swirled all day. More than 70 students wanted in on it. Their target, the Banzai Pipeline, one of the tallest, fastest slides in the park. Wide open and steep, it was a slide meant for solo riders. But that didn't matter to them, not when adrenaline and memories were on the line. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, the park's closing announcements crackled through the speakers. It was time to head back to the buses. But Quimby didn't go. Neither did dozens of others. With one final surge of excitement, they rushed toward the Banzai Pipeline. Quimby was right there with them, swept up in the energy of the moment. She had worked so hard, played by the rules, and now she would let loose. At the top of the slide, a lifeguard stood, whistle in hand, trying to stop them. But the students were determined. They pushed past her, yelling and cheering as they packed onto the fiberglass slide, bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder. 33 teenagers, all on one slide, and then it happened. The structure groaned. A sickening crack echoed through the air. The fiberglass couldn't take the weight. It began to bend, then buckle, and in an instant it gave way. Screams filled the sky as the slide snapped, dropping the riders 40 feet in free fall. Some slammed into wooden beams on the way down. Others hit concrete, bushes, shallow water, or each other. Park-goers watched in frozen horror. A moment that had started with teenage rebellion turned into a nightmare playing out in real time. Dozens were injured, and in the middle of it all, motionless, was Quimby. She had struck a support beam on her way down, suffering catastrophic trauma to her head and chest. EMTs did everything they could, but within 45 minutes she was gone. The girl who was supposed to walk across a graduation stage to take on the world with her brilliant mind and kind heart never got the chance. In the days that followed, the city of Napa was plunged into mourning. Napa High's graduation, held just 10 days later, was not a celebration. It was a funeral in disguise. Some students showed up in wheelchairs. First responders sat beside them, and the seat where Quimby should have been had remained heartbreakingly empty. Her father, Larry Gillotti, filed a wrongful death lawsuit, seeking justice for the daughter he lost. It wasn't about money. It never is. It was about the gaping hole left in his life, the unanswered questions, the park's failures, the adult supervisors who didn't intervene, the safety protocols ignored. In the end, his family settled for $1.7 million, the largest payout from the disaster, but no settlement could bring Quimby back.
Kyra had been in the lake at the water park at a birthday party, swimming in what was a designated area. The only warning signs were to alert people to shallow water, nothing to indicate the depths Kyra was swimming in.
It was the kind of summer afternoon every child dreams of. Sunlight dancing on the water, laughter echoing across the park, and the thrill of birthday cake and inflatable obstacle courses. 11-year-old Kira Hill, a bright, athletic girl from South London, was there to celebrate a friend's birthday. She was full of joy, surrounded by 10 other children, each ready to make the most of the day at Liquid Leisure, a popular water park near Windsor in Berkshire. No one imagined it would be the last afternoon of Kira's life. At first, everything was perfect. The air was warm, the water inviting, and Kira was eager to leap into the fun. But somewhere in the middle of all the splashing and shrieking, something went wrong, terribly wrong. She had entered the water, not on the inflatables, but in a designated swimming area where life jackets weren't required. It should have been safe. And yet, she didn't come back up. Nobody saw it right away. Not the other children, not the staff, not the lifeguards whose eyes were meant to be trained on every ripple, every shadow beneath the surface. Minutes slipped by, precious minutes, the kind you can't ever get back. Then someone noticed. Panic gripped the park. Voices rose. People began shouting her name. Lifeguards scrambled, unsure of what to do. Witnesses later recalled the chaos, the desperation, the terrifying sense that no one was truly in control. Lifeguards were asking guests for goggles, Staff searched the wrong areas. There was no clear direction, no swift emergency protocol, just confusion, just delay. Kira was still in the water. More than 40 people, a mix of staff and terrified guests, jumped in to help. But the search was frantic and uncoordinated. Too slow, too late. With every passing second, hope slipped further away. Emergency services weren't even contacted until 3:55 p.m. By the time Kira was finally pulled from the water, it was after 5:10 p.m., more than an hour since she had gone missing. She was rushed to Wexham Park Hospital, but there was nothing they could do. She was pronounced dead, drowned. Her father, Leonard Hill, was left to face the unthinkable. A parent's worst nightmare made real by a series of human failures. This was neglect, he said. A lack of awareness, not paying attention. Almost a carefree attitude shown towards her. I would say she was left to drown. His voice cracked not just with grief, but with disbelief. Anger. The conviction that this didn't have to happen. Kira had been in a shallow area. She hadn't strayed. She hadn't broken rules. She had done what any child might do. And still, somehow, she slipped through the cracks of the water, of the system, of the people who were supposed to be watching her. She had a chance, Leonard insisted. But lack of urgency, lack of interest, lack of action is the reason why my daughter is no longer here today. No parent should have to speak those words. Liquid Leisure was fined £80,000 for failing to ensure the safety of a guest, an additional £30,000 in costs, a £2,000 victim surcharge. The company issued a statement of sorrow, claiming heartbreak and cooperation with the investigation. But for Leonard, and anyone who loved Kira, no amount of money could come close to justice. No fine could rewind time. No statement could erase the image of those wasted minutes, that frantic search, that agonizing wait for someone to do something. Anything. Kira Hill was just days away from turning 12. She had dreams, a future, a family that adored her. That birthday never came. Instead, she became a story that no one wanted to tell. A warning, a tragedy, a name that should have been protected, not mourned. And we are left to ask ourselves, what if someone had paid closer attention? What if a whistle had blown sooner? What if one person had noticed, had moved, had acted just in time? Kira was not just a child at play. She was a life, full of promise, stolen in silence, right beneath the surface.